Well, a date has been set for the recall election of Jackson County Executive Frank White. Good morning.
Woo!
It is great to be here. I mean, it's always great to be here, but it is an extra special, extra great day to be here. Now that you know you can clear your calendars for September the 30th. I know a lot of you were hoping it was going to be 3 weeks from today on August 26th. But you will have to wait just a few weeks longer until Tuesday, September 30th, to vote on the recall of the Jackson County Executive.
Is that where we wear our Monarchs hats that day?
Yes.
So that we can support Frank becoming a full-time coach, maybe?
You got a Monarchs hat, Mark, or no?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you do?
Got a Monarchs hat.
All right. I'll have to get myself one. Wonder if they're on sale here with the season coming to an end soon.
I picked one up at the Untitled Series.
Oh, well, you got a free one, of course, because Mark gets free gear all over town.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I did check. That is 2 days after the Royals season comes to an end. They wrap up on the road against the Athletics, but I guess they could be getting ready for a playoff game at that point. We'll have to wait and see.
Oh, yeah, hopefully.
That would be great. But anyway, you've got Frank White, who now is potentially all of 7 weeks away from wrapping up his tenure as the Jackson County Executive. And it was very evident to me that Frank White still doesn't understand what's going on. He doesn't get the why behind this entire effort. And it's one of those things that I look at and I say to myself, at what point do you look in the mirror and realize I've royally screwed up? Instead of getting super defensive and being like, well, everyone's out to get me. Now, the story arc of Frank White is actually a fairly sad one. Frank White has had that chip on his shoulder going back to his playing days with the Kansas City Royals. And he's continued with that chip in his post-playing days and now into his political career. And it's ultimately what's going to sink him. It's not even the policies. Like Frank White, I think, is a left-of-center Democrat. I don't think he's at all. There's nothing to suggest he is a wacko far-left liberal or anything like that. He's certainly not too far to the right. He's actually politically, I think, probably in line with Jackson County as a left-of-center Democrat. But that's not what sank Frank White. It's not his policy positions for the most part. It was his aloofness during the obscene handling of the property tax and tax assessment issue in this county. And it was the fact that he was whistling past the graveyard. It was the fact that he was totally out to lunch, that he didn't even appear to care about the struggles of his own constituents. Decent politicians at least pretend to care. Frank White could never be bothered to pretend to care. And that's what sank him as much as anything else. Now, he put out here in a statement yesterday, I believe the people of Jackson County deserve something real in return for $1 billion investment, jobs, community benefits, transparency, and respect. So Frank still thinks this is about the baseball stadium. He still thinks this is about renovating Arrowhead. And he still thinks the big bad powers that be are out to get him. No, that's not the case. It's actually the opposite. It's the little guy who's been out to get Frank White. It's the little guy who's been screwed by this administration and by the assessment process. And they haven't even gotten a, I'm sorry about what happened from their leadership. They've gotten a leadership that has completely doubled down. And the audacity of Frank White to put the word respect in his statement when Frank has shown not an ounce of respect for his own constituents throughout this entire process is awfully rich, is it not? So I believe that Frank White is ultimately going to get recalled. Frank White deserves to get recalled. And we will have a celebration the day after Frank White gets recalled. Hopefully we'll know on Wednesday, October 1st. And it's not because I think Frank White is a bad person. I don't know him. I've never met him. I'm not going to assess that. But he has been a wildly incompetent county executive. And he has failed so miserably on one of the few things the county is actually tasked to do. I'm not even going to get into, like, sharing resources with the city of Kansas City, trying to work on that jail together. I'm not even going to get into all of that. That's ancillary to all the issues that we've talked about, with the assessment issue being front and center, being the main thing that will sink Frank White as a politician. 43,000 Jackson County residents put their names to a petition and said, we're done. We're over it. Out of a county of about 700,000 people. That's hard to do. And I've heard from some people who are like, you know what? Jackson County should have to deal with Frank White because they voted him in. They've got to deal with their mistakes. No, this is the law. The law allows you to recall people, and it's very difficult. Trust me, there was 2 or 3 recall attempts of Quentin Lucas, and they all crashed and burned because no one actually knew what they were doing. No one actually wanted to put in the effort, and people talked a big game on Facebook and then never came through. Never did it. This one actually got done. This one actually had people fired up. This one actually had people to the point where they were fed up. And now we know that on September 30th, the vote is going to happen to recall County Executive Frank White. So clear the calendar. Tell your bosses when you get to the office today that you need a long lunch break on the 30th of September. And if they don't live in Jackson County, they might be like, what? What's going on? And if they live in Jackson County, hopefully they'll give you a fist bump and they'll say, take all the time you need, whatever it takes. And maybe they'll slide on their Monarchs hat behind their desk as well. Maybe that'll happen. Mark will be rocking his Monarchs hat on Tuesday, September 30th.
Might even wear the jersey.
Oh, you got a jersey?
Yeah.
You got a jersey?
It was free,
From the show?
No.
Oh.
My wife got one through her work.
Oh, gosh.
She gifted it to me.
You are unbelievable. Unbelievable. You should have worn it today, Mark. You got all your Chiefs gear on. Come on, dude.
I heard that we had a guest coming in studio later who loves the Chiefs. Tease for later.
We do have Kansas U.S. Senator Roger Marshall coming into studio at 8 o'clock today. So last time we talked to him, he was out at Chiefs camp giving us a little play-by-play report there from St. Joe. So that's why you're wearing your Chiefs gear today, for Roger Marshall.
I wanted to dress appropriately for the U.S. Senator there.
Oh, man, you are too much. Too much. On the text line, 913-408-7957. Pete, who will Frank's replacement be? I certainly don't want it to be the manhandler, Manny Abarca. Well, I see what you did there. No, it will not be Manny Abarca. Could be Duron McGee. He's on the legislature right now. It could be somebody not in the legislature. I think Dan Tarwater, who is a longtime executive or a longtime legislator in the county, wants to do it. Phil Lavoda is a guy involved, a local attorney who has shown interest. Talked about that on the Keatsman show here. So I don't think it's going to be somebody crazy. But it doesn't mean somebody crazy can't win the election next year when that seat is open. So that's entirely possible. But my hunch is that it's not going to be some wacko in Jackson County. It's not. It's not going to be one of the far left people in the county legislature. So that's a good thing. At least you can hopefully take a breath with that information now. On the text line, Pete, Frank White takes all his advice from Quentin Lucas. Nah, he doesn't. Trust me, they're not exactly buddy-buddy. I don't care what each of them say. They are not buddy-buddy. And I'll leave you with that. Coming up next on KCMO, I woke up, I saw this in my email, and I said, you've got to be freaking kidding me. What is it? I'll share next. Every morning, I make sure I obviously check my work email, make sure I still have a job, make sure my key card will work when I get to the building. So it's always a good thing to do before I get here. Just check the email, make sure I haven't been fired. You know how it is, John.
Kind of my thing, too, on the card. Every once in a while, I'll accidentally miss. And, what? Take two? Oh, woo.
You know, I will say I met Scott Parks of another radio station here in town for the first time a few weeks back at the Dayton Moore golf event. And a very pleasant guy. We had never really talked before. And I said to him, how's it going over there? He said, well, every day I show up and the key card keeps working. So I figure that's a good day.
Yep.
So I said, oh, that's pretty good. So I checked my email this morning, and this just had me so worked up. I was so ticked off about this. Not because it impacted me, but just as a parent and as a Kansas City. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So I get these emails from KCPD all the time, right? If there's, God forbid, a homicide, if there's a missing persons, if they want to get something out to the media, obviously we're on that distribution list. So I get this email, and I didn't wake up to it last night, but it came in at 4:13 in the morning, and it's a missing persons flyer. And it's a picture of a young black child, and it says, unknown black male about 3 to 4 years old. The child is nonverbal. The juvenile was found in the area of 93rd and Myrtle at 2:50 this morning. Please contact Missing Persons Unit if there's any information on the child. Now, a few minutes later, they send out an email saying that please disregard, the parents have been located. But I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, there are people today all over Kansas City who think that the idea of free markets and capitalism and making your way is somehow out to screw them. When so much of success in this country in 2025 is just doing the basics right. Now, yes, there's always bad luck, and there's no doubt about it. There are things that you can't control. I understand all of that. But when you see stories like this, first off, you feel for this child who did nothing but really be born to apparently the wrong parents. He's 3 to 4 years old. He's nonverbal, and he's roaming the streets at 3 a.m. How does that even happen? Now, I've got a 4-year-old. She likes to wander around. We've had to tell her multiple times, you do not leave this house without an adult. You don't walk out on the front porch. You don't go into the driveway. So I understand, not all kids are perfect. But 3 o'clock in the morning? What the heck is going on? And then you wonder why some of these kids are just not going to have a chance. And we're not a government program away from fixing this. If your nonverbal 3 to 4-year-old is roaming the neighborhood at 93rd and Myrtle, which is basically right off of Bannister Road and 71 Highway, not exactly the cream of the crop in Kansas City, I hate to say. There's a bunch of apartments over there. I mean, it's not the nicest part of town. And this kid is found wandering around in the middle of the night in Kansas City. And we think if only we had a little more midnight basketball for the youth, we'd be okay. I mean, we've got much bigger problems than that when you talk about issues like this. And this poor kid, I just feel terrible as a parent for this child. Because you don't know. You sit there and you say, well, what are the chances going to be for this kid? I don't know. I hope, and I'll pray for him that, he's able to figure out his life and his family's going to take much better care of him than they did last night. Maybe it's a wake-up call. We all have those as parents. But, man, I got this at 4 o'clock this morning in my email, and I said, you have got to be kidding me. Absolutely kidding me. And it was one of those things that whether you're a parent, a grandparent, whatever it might be, it was one of those things that I just couldn't wrap my head around, and it bothered me so much. Now, meantime, let's go to the plaza, where it turned out the Embassy Suites is going to close permanently. So it's another blow for a major business in and around the plaza. Embassy Suites by Hilton is closing permanently. A spokesperson for Hilton told Fox 4 the hotel is expected to close in September. Their date is September 15th, at which time the property will no longer form part of the Hilton portfolio. Until then, guests can continue to book stays at the hotel, and as Fox 4 reports, it's unclear what will be replacing the Hilton Hotel. Now, my guess is nothing right now. My guess is it will be another empty building, except this one is going to be a real eyesore. Because, you're talking about probably an 8-story hotel building there at that Embassy Suites on the plaza. And to me, that's going to be another sign of a dying plaza. And that's unfortunate. We want to see the plaza turn around. It is a crown jewel of Kansas City. But between the empty storefronts up and down the main roads and now this Embassy Suites, that my guess is going to stay empty for a period of time because all the benefits right now are going downtown, the Lowe's Hotel, all those places. I don't see anything coming to the Embassy Suites or replacing it anytime soon, John.
They were closing Temple Slug, a store that's near there. That I don't know if there's any development going on in that area. But, yeah, the weird thing about Embassy Suites is, and trust me, I walked it once, it's not really the plaza.
Yeah.
It's quite a hoof when you go to the art fair and you have to park. So it's closer to Westport, oddly enough, and maybe a little bit more akin to those troubles.
That's a good point.
Although both areas have their issues of being adjacent to each other, we hear a little bit more about Westport. And so it feels more like Westport in the times I've been there.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, I also would say if there's anything worse than being on the plaza right now, that's being between the plaza and Westport, probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
I hate to say it.
Right.
I don't say that with any joy, to be clear.
So there's some decent houses there and people making an effort, but, just everything coming around in all different areas.
That's a good point. But, it's one of those things, too, you look at and you say to yourself, if you wanted to see this part of Kansas City start turning around, this is really not a good sign.
I mean, it is close enough to be considered a plaza location if everything's full and you want to come into town for the World Series, World Cup.
Yes. That's a great point.
How about the timing here?
They're shutting down less than a year before it's so bad for the Embassy Suites off the plaza that they're saying, you know what, we're not going to stay open another 9 months to try to take advantage of the World Cup and charge a fortune for people to stay here. We're just going to basically close up right now because staying open till next July is apparently an untenable situation for Hilton, and it's not worth it to them. That is not a good sign when you bring that up, John. That's a very good point. It's 6:27 as we get it rolling here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. And we're always streaming on the iHeart and KCMO Talk Radio apps. As you get your morning started, I know the kids are starting school in just over a week. I can't believe that's coming. Mark, the girls are going back in 8 days, man.
It's insane.
I don't like it. I really don't. It's too early. But I'll save that maybe for Tirade Tuesday, 8:30 today on KCMO. Did you see who was in Kansas City last night? A former presidential candidate. We'll tell you who and why next. Former presidential hopeful Beto O'Rourke was in Kansas City last night. That's right. Beta boy Beto was in town. Let's go. How about that, John?
Is he hanging out at Penway Point? That'd be like his kind of place, I think.
That would be his place, riding the old Ferris wheel.
Should have bounced back with some of his punk rock band.
That's right. I was going down the rabbit hole last night when I saw him. It was actually my daddy sent me a post. He said, Beto's speaking in Kansas City. I missed it, and he sent me the live speech. So I'm watching this thing last night after it happened, and I could only get through about 20 minutes. I mean, that was enough. I had heard enough from Beto O'Rourke. Guy spoke for 90 minutes, apparently, in Kansas City last night. He was at the gallery, which is right down in Power and Light. And it was part of an event called Power to the People. And he's going around the country, I guess, and he's organizing, and he's trying to get people fired up for the midterms, and he's doing all that stuff. So he visits, and he said some of the most ridiculous stuff you're ever going to hear, but also it's very much on brand, and it takes you behind the scenes as to how the Democrat Party is going to try to energize its voters ahead of the midterms. That's what Beto O'Rourke was, I think, basically doing a test run of last night here in Kansas City. And this really stood out to me. Beto O'Rourke was talking about John Lewis, civil rights leader, ends up in Congress, the whole thing, all right? And he's talking about how this moment is akin to what John Lewis, of course, an American civil rights activist, was going through in his heyday, basically back in the 1960s. Like, you have got to be kidding me. I mean, I know you're a politician. You've got to stretch the truth. That's part of the job description. But, man, you're no John Lewis.
God, how I wish sometimes that I was alive at that time to join that fight, to be willing to put my life down on the line with these great American heroes.
Oh, please. I wish I could have put my life on the line in between my punk rock shows and skateboarding efforts to fight the good fight alongside John Lewis. Goodness gracious, man.
I see a problem with this theory because we've eliminated history from school, and now we're going so far back. It's like these kids don't know anything about what you're talking about.
You're right about that. But what's amazing, too, is the audience, as I'm watching them last night, let's just put it this way. The average age of the individuals in the audience, probably ready, if not longtime members of the AARP. I'll just say that much.
All right.
And there were quite a few masks in
Boomers
attendance as well.
represent.
Oh, yeah. Oh, they were very well represented last night in Kansas City.
How precious few generations get to join the fight to save this country. Well, folks, that could describe us today. In the last 6 months, since he was sworn into office, the current president of the United States has defied the co-equal federal courts. He has dismantled congressionally mandated programs and agencies and departments. He has colluded with corrupt public officials, and he has sought at every turn to dismantle this democracy.
That's what they're going to go with. That's it right there. Dismantle democracy, dictator. I mean, this is exactly the playbook for next year. Not that you needed to be reminded of that. Not that you're surprised by any of this. But I almost was annoyed when my old man sent me the video because I'm like, oh, gosh, I wish I just didn't know this because now I actually have to watch Beto O'Rourke. I don't know. I didn't get the invite. I wasn't active on social media yesterday because I had a bunch of meetings and whatnot catching up after a few days off. So, my old man sends me the video and I'm like, gosh, dang it. Now I've got to actually watch some of this thing. And I made it. I made it through, like I said, about 20 minutes last night of watching Beto O'Rourke. And what do you think the over-under was before he compared Trump to Hitler? Just take a wild guess.
2 minutes.
Oh, that's good. Aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
I would say probably 7.5.
Okay. All right. You guys are both very aggressive. It took until about the 16-minute and 25-second mark for Hitler to be referenced. 16 out of a 90-minute speech.
Mm-hmm. And did he ever actually say the current president's name?
I
think that was a ploy that I noticed in the remarks. We're not going to say his name there.
Well,
but he might have when he got to the Hitler part.
I've got the clip. Let's take a listen.
See.
Remember, from the moment he was sworn in as chancellor in January of 1933, it took Hitler 53 days to destroy German democracy. At every turn, every time he defied the German Constitution, every time he exceeded his constitutional authority, every time he dismantled the rule of law, the German press, the German public, the German politicians did too little, and they did it too late. In 53 days, he went from this buffoonish thug who could barely hold power to the undisputed master and dictator of the German people. What does that mean for us here in America if we fail to win now the fight that will be waged in 2026? It means that there will be more masked, plainclothes, federal agents without badges or warrants sweeping our fellow Americans up off the streets. And lest you labor under the illusion that it's terrorists or thugs or gang members, it is everyday people, including U.S. citizens born in this country, children in some cases, deported to countries they've never been to before.
Getting violent criminals off the streets who are in the country illegally means that we are on the verge of experiencing the next Hitler. That is what you heard from Robert Francis, a.k.a. Beto O'Rourke, last night right here in Kansas City as he was speaking down in the Power and Light District. And he never said the word Trump, to your point, John. He just referred to him as basically Hitler. He talked about the rise of Hitler. He said basically we're living through that right now. And you want to talk about irresponsible? This is the definition of irresponsible politicians at their absolute freaking worst. That's what Beto O'Rourke was doing last night here in Kansas City.
I want to be one of those guys heckling in the crowd. Say his name! name.
Yeah.
Say his name.
Victor in Parkville, you're on KCMO. Good morning.
Good morning, Pete. I'll do this ahead of the tirade Tuesday. Hey, Beto, and to all of you out there, every generation has the right and the privilege to defend this nation against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Okay, and that also goes for me. I mean, you've heard stolen valor, the stolen patriotism. Everybody on 4th of July, singing, "I'm proud to be an American." Okay, but yet they forget the other verses about willing to stand up and defend her. They're proud to wave the flag, but they don't want to do the frickin' work. As Reagan said, we are always one generation from losing our freedom. Now is the time to fight, and now there are those of us who are patriots who are now exposing the deep state and are just wedging these frickin' bureaucrats out of the system and trying to claw back our constitutional rights and our freedoms for the people who don't even frickin' know what they are or even appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Victor. I wish you were there last night. You could have given Beto a piece of your mind.
He could use it.
Victor would have been in the back. He would have been heckling him with that big soliloquy, and John would have been screaming, "Say his name!" That would have been quite a 1-2 punch. There you go. So we'll have more from Beto throughout the morning, because if I've got to listen to it, I've got to share it with you. I didn't put all that work in listening to it to just watch it myself, okay? We got more Beto clips coming your way this morning on KCMO. I've got your daily reminder that National Panhandler Radio is hot garbage. Not that you needed it. And please, give them all the money you want. Buy all the bumper stickers you want. Buy all the koozies and the pins that your little heart desires. I'm just telling you,
I'm not worth your Red Lobster money?
No, it's not. It's absolutely not. And I have another reminder for you here on a Tuesday morning. It's great to have you on KCMO. This at KCUR. Kansas City was named one of America's most dangerous cities. There's more to the story. Yeah, there definitely is, but it's probably not the more to the story that you're thinking of. It's the more to the story that KCUR is trying to spin. They write here, 2023 was the deadliest year in Kansas City history. It was ranked 8th on the list of most dangerous U.S. cities based on FBI crime reports. They then go on to quote a couple of people here, a couple of doctors. They have doctors in their titles. So, big fancy guys who spent too long in school and overpaid for degrees that just lack a lot of common sense. That's what comes with these degrees, right? It's part of the course, par for the course. So here's part of the quotes that stood out to me from some of these doctors, air quote doctors. They write here, Dr. Marijana Kotlaja, a senior associate at Justice System Partners, emphasized that understanding the conditions that make crime more likely to occur means we can create solutions that target those conditions. The quote here, it's not necessarily bad people living in certain areas, because we know that the same locations are going to stay crime hotspots, even if residents are moving in and out. Stop right there. Suggesting that high crime areas are not driven by bad people living in certain areas is absurd. It absolutely is the driver of high crime areas. Bad people living in the same parts of Kansas City, or any major American city for that matter, they're the ones who obviously drive the crime. They are bad people because bad people commit crimes. But you see the spin here going down this road of they're people who are down on their luck. They're people who just haven't gotten the services that they need from their government and their county and their state. And if they just got the proper program in place, none of this would be happening, John.
The last sentence that you attributed to the doctor was interesting, too. They just stated emphatically, we know that. What did it say?
We know.
Yes,
that the same locations are going to stay crime hotspots.
So they're suggesting that the area is the problem, right?
Yes.
Now, how do we know, air quotes? Cite a source there.
And why? Mm-hmm. Why are the same spots hotspots for criminal activity? Because of bad people who are abusing those areas. Because they're run down. because they're impoverished, right? That's why you're seeing that, and there's not a big government fix to it here. KCUR goes on the right. To find out what exactly those conditions are, this doctor and team of researchers talked to residents in several neighborhoods. So if you're just talking to residents, then what makes you qualified as a doctor to come to these conclusions that the crime hotspots in Kansas City or any major American city are not driven by bad people with bad intentions, but rather some of the shortcomings of the neighborhoods? One of the team's objectives, they write, is to find the local areas with the least social cohesion in order to develop targeted interventions. Man, this is just a lot of PhD gobbledygook, all right? That's all that this is. This is just, don't overcomplicate this, okay? Don't overcomplicate it. If you're Kansas City, Missouri, if you're Jackson County at large, you find bad people doing bad things, you arrest them, you put them in prison, you get them off the streets, and you give these poor communities a chance to live in peace. That's what you do. And we've seen success stories over the last 50 years like this all over the country. And now you got these PhD wonks who are trying to overcomplicate something because they've got big fancy degrees and they think they're above the fray when it comes to solving the violence issues in Kansas City.
We can't take action before we write the statement that we're collaborative in our efforts to identify the root cause.
Yes,
right?
yes.
How much did that cost?
Yes. It's like the woke movement where there always has to be something else to cancel in cancel culture, because if you run out of things to cancel, your grift is over. Okay? I mean, that's just how it is. The grift is over if you run out of things to try to cancel.
Show some RESPICT.
Some of us know that better than others. Thank you very much, Reverend Al. It's the same idea. These guys that spend all this money and gals spend all this money on these fancy degrees and PhDs, and now they're, working at UMKC and they're senior associates at these nonprofits. They've got to basically prove their worth by overcomplicating something that is not incredibly difficult to understand. You need to have lived in the real world for a hot minute, live a couple of different places, understand human nature, and boom, you're good. You figure it out. That's really all there is to it. 913-408-7957. So not that any of us were losing any sleep over the fact that NPR was recently defunded. Thank goodness. Took them long enough. But that piece right there from KCUR, just another example of it. On the text line, so if it's not the people in the area that make it bad, what is it, Pete? The houses, the streets, the street names, the trees? You might be onto something there when you say the street names. Yes, the statues, right? If we take down the statues, the Confederate statues, if we change the street names, like Troost, that should be the thing that cures violence in Kansas City and in major American cities around the country. That'll be it. Bing, bang, boom. Got it all figured out. How about that? So that is very well done. Now, speaking of people being canceled, Frank White is now about 7 weeks away from potentially seeing his time as the Jackson County executive come to an end. The date was set September 30th for the Frank White recall vote. A judge came to that conclusion yesterday. And the question now becomes, first off, will he get recalled? And what is the story behind the recall effort? Frank White continues to double down on this idea that the reason he's being recalled is exclusively because of his stance on the stadiums and the fact that he was against the stadium tax last year, and now the powers that be around Kansas City and Jackson County are out to get him. That's not true. That's Frank White making himself out to be a victim. He is not a victim in any of this. You have 43,000 regular folks around Kansas City who signed a petition to recall him. They were not staunch supporters of spending money on stadiums. But Frank's statement yesterday would lead you to believe that he still believes this recall effort is just driven by stadium votes. He says here, I believe the people of Jackson County deserve something real in return for $1 billion investment, jobs, community benefits, transparency, and respect. This Frank White administration has shown zero respect for its constituents through the tax assessment debacle of the last few years. And now he's claiming he's standing up for the respect of the taxpayer? Please. That's ridiculous.
There's something wrong with him.
And then you get this from Duron McGee, who basically called out Frank White. Duron McGee is a legislator in Jackson County, and here's what he said about that yesterday to KCTV5.
I think that the county executive is tone deaf of the issue at hand. This has nothing to do with about stadiums. Stadiums were decided in April of last year. It failed.
He's right. This has nothing to do with stadiums. But this is how Frank White can portray himself as the victim in this story. People can't afford to stay in their homes right now in Jackson County. And not only did Frank White not really do anything about it, he whistled past the graveyard and didn't even show an ounce of empathy for his own residents. He basically just looked at him, scoffed at him, and said, "There's nothing to see here."
You still poor, broke, busted, and disgusted.
That was Frank White. And now he's wondering why this is happening and blaming big money stadium interests. We knew this guy was out of touch. But, man, he is just doubling down on being really out of touch. Rod's getting smoked right now. He is just getting absolutely crushed on social media.
He used to say that song applied to his philosophy on getting married. He had, like all these blonde wives, about every 15 years or so. So Forever Young is the song title there, and it's like, there you go.
Well, you know what? That's one of those stories you probably told leading into a Rod Stewart song back in your music days, right?
Absolutely.
Well, now Rod is facing scrutiny for paying tribute to the late Ozzy Osbourne with AI-generated clips at one of his recent concerts. So the video that's been circulating comes from last Friday, and it was captured by various concert goers who showed footage of basically an AI-generated Ozzy Osbourne celebrating in heaven with other deceased music legends like Michael Jackson, Tina Turner, Prince, Kurt Cobain, Bob Marley, Amy Winehouse, and George Michael, as he played Forever Young in the background.
It all seemed like a good idea, right?
Yeah. Yes. I see what you were going for there. Like, it was one of those things where I don't think the intentions were wrong by Rod Stewart. But, you know, this AI stuff, seeing Ozzy Osbourne smiling next to Tina Turner in a selfie from heaven.
Yeah.
You know, I get what you were going for, but, man, someone's got to talk you out of that, Rod.
I watched that video, and I'm like, wait, when did he meet Amy Winehouse? So Ozzy's kind of like Elvis. You can identify certain periods of Ozzy. And so each of these pictures, he looks pretty with it and all alert and happy. And I'm like, I don't think Ozzy was that smiley back during that time period. And then it dawns on me what it is. I'm like, Ozzy didn't hang out with Prince.
Yeah. How about Tupac? There was one of him and Tupac.
Yeah. That it's like... So the images are all shown like they're just standing there, like it was a selfie like people take anywhere at an amusement park. And out you're out with friends. Hey, quick selfie. You know, if they'd have just shown the individual picture, each person.
Yeah, maybe.
It would have been a great video. Just Ozzy. Then here comes Tina, and acknowledging the people in the song seems like the way to do it.
Well, it's like at the Grammys every year, they would show a B-roll of people who have died in the Oscars, and that's tasteful, and they're real photos of real people. They're not AI-generated photos of Ozzy hanging out with Freddie Mercury.
Pretty funny. Freddie's got a pretty big smile, too, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Freddie was in a good mood that day. It didn't dawn on me while I'm looking at these at first, what I was looking at.
It was just, I saw, John brought this to my attention, and I'm like, no, he didn't. He didn't really do that, did he? And whether it's Rod Stewart's idea or somebody brought it to him, I know, like, everyone's like, how do I use AI today to look like a genius, to further my industry and what I do? And trust me, I'm using it. I'm learning it. I'm getting better at it every day. And there are ways that it can help me with this show and things that we're doing on digital media in particular. But somebody talked Rod Stewart into a really bad and really dumb idea. And now he's just getting absolutely roasted for it. And I don't think Rod probably had any idea what he was getting into. I mean, let's be honest.
No.
The guy's 80 years old, okay? He wasn't playing around with ChatGPT.
I was surprised he was on tour, to be honest.
Or Copilot from Microsoft and being like, you know what, guys, I got an idea. I was fooling around on my chat GPT last. No, he wasn't. Trust me. Rod Stewart was not doing that. Okay? He's like, probably someone ran it by him and he said, sure, sounds good. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, one of his young people that works for him doing his social media was probably like, all right, let's do this and just pay tribute to him. And he's like, all right, let's do it.
Let's do it. Someone talked him into it.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, that is tacky. Tacky. Now, listen, still got some good music, but man, you can go a little too far with this AI stuff. All right? You can. Roger Marshall's going to be here in 10 minutes. We look forward to having him in studio. Mark's got his Chiefs gear on for the Kansas U.S. Senator, who just a week ago was joining us with a live report from St. Joe doing a little play-by-play. Touchdown to number 2. Roger Marshall, he was fired up about that last week.
And number 20 were a couple of his favorites.
Yeah, that was great.
I think Tyquan Thornton was number 2.
Oh, that was his guy?
Yeah.
All right.
He's doing well in camp.
Every time I see Tyquan Thornton now, I'm going to think, number 2, Roger Marshall.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to think about every single
Get
time.
him a jersey. Let's get a 2 jersey. We can make that happen.
Oh, that's hysterical. Oh, man. In the meantime, I saw we've got some more pizza expansion coming to Kansas City. St. Louis-based Emos will open up its 3rd Kansas City area location this year, according to a new report yesterday in the Kansas City Star. And I'm just wondering how much more mediocre pizza we can get in this town. I mean, how many more mid-sized chain crap pizzas are we going to get around Kansas City, John? I mean, when does it end?
Yeah. Well, I understand your opinion being
Well, I'm just
from where you're from. But I like Emos, but Emos was here, and then Emos contracted. I don't know where they went. Like Lions, the roast beef place that already went back out of business. It's like, if you're coming, stay. But I don't know.
They're just, I guess now they're back into kind of serving Kansas City.
There were 5 or 6 here at one time, way back when they first opened. There was one down in Westport, and they were all around. I got down to even just 1, so now we're up to 3 again.
Yeah, we're back up to 3.
Oh, boy.
So I just think that there's an oversaturation of that quality and level of pizza in the marketplace.
Touché.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, the marketplace is never wrong. So if they do well, that will probably come at somebody else's expense.
Emos is like a cracker with cheese on it.
That's what I mean.
That's all it is.
I know.
Yes, but the cheese. It's the cheese.
Thank you, Mark, for backing me up on this. A cracker with cheese.
I tried Emos once in St. Louis, and I was like, never again. And then I tried the one here to see if it was different. It was the same. Never again.
You know, it's kind of like it happens with radio shows, too. They're really successful in, like, a market and a city, and they try to expand it, and it just doesn't work. Some shows can expand. Some shows are very unique to their town. And that's what Emo's Pizza feels like to me. I know it's an institution in St. Louis, but it's a cracker with cheese. I mean, I have that with my kids.
Seafood here is catfish, hush puppies, so that's the same thing, right? Trailer park fish.
Yeah. Oh, man. I mean, I wish them well. Anyone who wants to do business here, I wish them well.
Jason Justice is glad to hear it.
Yeah. I'm sitting here and I'm also like, man, I don't know. That's a lot of stiff competition for 5-star out of 10-star pizza. It's just, I think enough's enough. We got Tirade Tuesday coming up in 10 minutes. Whatever you want to rant on, that's your 10 minutes a week where you determine the direction of the show. So maybe I'll kick it off here a few minutes early because I got my vehicle property tax bill in the mail this week. Did you get that yet, Mark, on your side?
I have not.
You sure your wife didn't open the mail and try to hide it from you?
Yeah.
Usually Kansas goes alphabetical.
Yeah. I think we
So
are
his
in
will come
November.
later in the year.
Yours will come Really? That's how they do it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Right
wow.
before Christmas for me, it's terrible.
Oh,
Yeah.
you get it right. Oh, man, what a kick in the
It's
bone.
terrible.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, I had the same thing with Mark when I lived in Kansas. It comes close enough to the end of the year, it wrecks your Christmas. Now I'm in Missouri where it wrecks your Christmas. They do it at the end of the year. Yeah.
So Missouri does it at the end of the year for everybody.
Yep.
And then Kansas rolls it out through the year
Registration.
alphabetically. Wow. What a screw job that is for Mark when you got a V last name. Whoa. Holy smokes.
I haven't really complained about it on social media until the last couple of years, but now it's like, I got to get presents for the girls.
Jeez. I got mine yesterday. And every year, I always kind of plan on it. It's always come in August for us every single year, and now I know why. But every single year, I look at this bill, And I'm like, you have got to be freaking kidding me. What is going on in Kansas?
They don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
I mean, this is such an obscene tax. When two cars that, listen, we like our vehicles from Volkswagen Lease Summit. They're great friends of the show and great sponsors of the program, and they're outstanding cars. But it's like having two cars that I already paid Kansas a sales tax to buy with money that I was taxed on by the state of Kansas to then purchase the vehicles, which had a sales tax on it. Now, by the way, here's hundreds of dollars that you've got to spend to just keep your vehicles within the state of Kansas. It's unbelievable. And I was looking it up compared to other states in the area. And not even in the area, in the country. Kansas is one of the states, obviously, that does have, and Missouri, for that matter, personal property tax on vehicles. But what's interesting is you go to like some of the more liberal states, and they actually don't have any annual tax on vehicle ownership. Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, Iowa doesn't have any annual tax on vehicle ownership. But when you actually stack all this up, I mean, our vehicle tax between the two cars is going to be basically, give or take, 15, 20% of our home property tax. Like, that is outrageous. And I know we've got a Kansas governor's race coming up next year, and Senator Marshall and I were talking about that. We're like, that's going to be a doozy. And he's staying out of that one. Smart man, as am I. I'll just be following it from afar, obviously, here on the show. But if you get someone who goes out there and says, I'm going to end personal property taxes on cars, that's my guy or my gal. That's it right there. That is I will be a single issue voter if you vote to and you push to eliminate the personal property tax on cars in Kansas, John.
Well, it's a tradition here in the Midwest because in western Kansas, there are actually more tractors than people. So if you tax the tractors, you're going to get more revenue.
Yeah, that's a good point. What a screw job. Oh, man. I will be a single issue voter next year if someone says, I'm going to be the governor that is going to end personal property tax on cars. What a screw job.